Got a few questions from Norway in response, obviously, to the recent terrorist atrocity there. The first is, one reader writes, unfortunately, this has led to the political left to delegitimize and demonize criticism of Islam even more than before. Obviously, whatever problem we had with the integration of Muslims before the terror attacks is still there. It is, however, impossible not to reconsider one's rhetoric even when one's intentions are purely benevolent. So the question is, do you have any suggestions about how to approach this? Now, this is a problem which I blogged about a little bit already. This is a real concern for me. There was already such a politically correct impediment, especially in Europe, but everywhere, in the way of speaking honestly about specific doctrines within Islam and the way in which they are actually held by Muslims in various communities. And it's decidedly inconvenient that the people who feel no constraint in terms of political correctness are, and therefore do say rather voluble and often perfectly accurate things about Islam, are racists and fascists and anti-Semites and people you absolutely you wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, but for the fact that they're the only people, for the most part, in the public square loudly saying what has to be said. And so this, obviously this just mind-boggling massacre that occurred in Oslo has made it even more difficult to speak honestly about the nature of Islam, because you, in doing so, seem to align yourself, or at least to be very callous to the company you're traveling in. That's, I think we just have to blow past that. We have to talk about we can't talk about religion as a monolith. We have to talk about the differences among religions. And within any one religion, we have to talk about the uniquely bad and consequential ideas. And for my money, there is no set of notions worse or more damaging or more divisive or more imperiling of the future than the beliefs in martyrdom and jihad in the Muslim world, in the doctrine, which really are central to the doctrine of Islam. This is not the crazy Islam that no Muslims know about or care about. This is not the equivalent of some cult within Islam that can be written off as not influential or representative of a major tradition. This is not the Branch Davidians, we have David Koresh in Waco, Texas, getting ready to self-immolate and not really representing Christianity. This is just one of the central messages of Islam, that paradise awaits those who die in defense of the faith. Nothing better can happen to you, and it is incumbent upon all Muslim men to wage jihad. And there are many others. This idea is set within a larger context of Muslim expectation for world domination, which is not a fantasy that right-wing racists make up. It is something that Salafi Muslims, for the most part, by and large, talk about ad nauseum. And this is what has to happen is the Muslim world has to find some way to really marginalize these voices. And it will be very difficult, because these are not crazy interpretations of the faith. These are rather straightforward instances of theology. And so it's like trying to figure out how to get the Christians to stop thinking Jesus is the Son of God. It would be hard. Now, there are Christians who have stopped thinking that, and there are Christians who don't invest anything in some of the central notions of Christianity. It took centuries to make that possible in the West, and I don't think we have centuries to to wait around for Islam to get its act together on the world stage. So we can't lie about the nature of Islam, and given the fact that very few people on the left realize this or want to talk about this publicly, you find yourself echoing the words of reactionaries and worse, and that's it's a huge problem discursively, and the only answer is to keep disavowing all of the racism and all of the other craziness, and make it clear at every moment that you're talking about ideas, you're talking about Islam, you're not talking about people and the color of people's skin, certainly, and you're not talking about specific cultures, you're talking about ideas and their consequences. So the white convert to Islam is who you're talking about just as much as the Arab who was born into the faith. And within that frame, you are talking about specific ideas, not just a nominal attachment to the faith. A related question from Norway: do you think it would be helpful to us as proponents of reason and science to join forces with Christians in criticizing Islam, in particular its treatment of women? Now again, this is a delicate issue which I've personally and professionally run into. It is true to say that the people who are most candid about the problem that Islam poses and its real doctrines tend to have their own ulterior motive, and it is not so ulterior, but it's the motive of advertising the merits of their own faith. It's not to say it's their only motive, but you have a lot of really animated Christians who attack Islam as the wrong faith, fully believing that they're in possession of the right faith. I don't see any particular reason to link up to join arms with them in any particular forum, but it is only honest to point out when they're not wrong. And the people in my camp, the non-believer camp, that talk about all religions as though they are by definition equivalent, and who talk about Christianity being just as bad in every case as Islam, are just being dishonest and offensive to Christians in ways that they don't need to be. It is not true that every religion poses the same threat of terrorism in the 21st century. And it is not true that every religion could pose the same threat of terrorism in the future. There are some religions that will never generate terrorism. And this is just obvious when you look at their doctrines. Now, this is not to say that Islam is worse across the board on every question that religion can be bad on. It's not bad on stem cell research. Muslims, for the most part, believe that the soul enters the embryo at the 40th day, or some say the 120th day. This is great for embryonic stem cell research. There's no problem sacrificing 3 to 5 day old human embryos within Islam. So Christianity, the specific beliefs of Christianity, pose a liability to that scientific research and all of the life-saving consequences we might enjoy as a result, in a way that Islam doesn't. Okay, so we can talk about that difference honestly, and that should be true across the board. And that's it's inconvenient that, as a matter of in the political sphere, it really is a unique problem with Islam that we have to confront, and it's very easy to worry that there's a racist motive or a nationalist motive or a xenophobic motive encroaching in the case of many people, and no doubt it is, especially in Western Europe at the moment.